Yeah, you wanted to ask me a few questions?
Yeah, can you tell us what's been happening as far as your escape from America and getting your visa in Indonesia? Has there been any developments there, Mr. Robert S. Finnegan?
The only developments that I've had is that I'm being stonewalled by the Indonesian government regarding my visa. I entered Indonesia in February, and up to this point, with or without the collusion of the American government, I've been denied, up to this point, my visa to stay here in Indonesia, despite the fact that I worked for the Indonesian government, unpaid, as the international communications editor for the Coordinated Ministry of the Economy, Dora Jatun, under Mahendra Sirigar. And I think this has something. I think this has something to do with it. I believe firmly that the American government, even though Ralph Boyce has been disgraced and deposed, Ralph Boyce was the ambassador at the time of the Bali bombings, and he was my number one nemesis. Ralph Boyce thought that I was determined to undermine American interests in Indonesia, and Ralph Boyce was responsible, solely responsible, for my firing and my ejection from Indonesia in 2003.
How can you say that he was solely responsible? Do you have do you know that for a fact?
Yes, he met twice with my publisher and my chief editor. The publisher being Sabam Segian, and my chief editor being Raymond Turan. And he, at both meetings, he demanded my firing and my ejection, and he accomplished it.
Did you have some evidence on what happened at Bali that maybe Ralph Boyce might have thought was a bit embarrassing to be exposed?
Yes. I and my team developed CIA Mossad involvement in the Bali bombing of 2002 at Kuta. And this is why Ralph Boyce made a concerted effort to silence me.
That's amazing. Did you find did you get any flack for this discovery when you found out that CIA were involved? Did you get any kind of flack from anybody else apart from Ralph Boyce?
Well, it wasn't flack, but before my analysis was published on January, I believe it was January 3rd, 2003, about 2 months after the bombing. And I vetted my analysis through my chief editor, Raymond Turan, and through my publisher, Sabam Segian. And they both told me at the time, do you realize, Mr. Finn, and I use quote marks, do you realize what this could do to the Jakarta Post? And I said, yes. And I offered both of them to kill the story. If they thought that it was so destructive that it could mean the end of the Jakarta Post, I offered to go ahead and kill the story, and they said, no, we're committed. Sabam Segian, the publisher of the Jakarta Post, told me personally, in these words, we are committed. So we're going to go ahead with this. And they signed off, both of them signed off on my special report on the Bali bombing that was published in January 2003.
What was the general mood of the people when the Australians moved in? Was there a kind of a lot of defiance? Was there a an air of, my God, is this possible?
It was fear. It was complete and total fear. Because they moved in, and the so-called international investigating team, which was comprised of Australian FBI and God knows how many other intelligence organizations, because at that time, Kuta was crawling with spooks. It was crawling with spooks. And the thing that was so striking, that struck me, was at the time, I was wondering how so many intelligence operatives from so many different agencies all over the world just so happened to be at Kuta at that time. I mean, it's physically impossible for them to jump on the plane when they heard about the bombing and be there, because I was there I was there in the morning after the bombing, and I'm already running into GGSC guys from France, from French intelligence. What are they doing there? What are they doing there? How in the hell did a group of individuals manage to penetrate Sangla Hospital and remove 5 bodies of soldiers that are attached to the UN on East Timor and fly them out of a closed airport at Denpasar? How does that happen? And that's when Damaso Reyes went in and got the flight logs and the apron logs, and they had both been altered. These guys thought they were smart. They thought they were really funny, and they went ahead and they altered the tower logs, but Damaso was one step ahead of them. He went down onto the apron because Damaso knew that there were 2 sets of logs, not 1, 2. So he got the tower logs, he got the copies of the tower logs, and then he went down onto the apron, and he got the apron logs, and that's where we found out that these people had gone ahead and altered the logs on this flight that went out. And, by the way, the plane that flew out these bodies was Israeli registered. We lost it in Singapore. When the Singaporean authorities refused to cooperate with us, we lost it there. But it was a Conair -7. Okay? I mean, everything fitted. Yeah, they could put 5 bodies on there. They did it. And they flew it into Singapore to refuel, and that's why we lost it.
How soon after the bombings did you get a phone call from Joe Viles, the West Australian researcher?
Joe Viles saw my publication of my special report on the bombing in the Jakarta Post in January of 2003. And that's when we established our contact.
January.
So it was about
2000. 2 months. Right.
Yeah.
And what was Joe's contention? What did he feel actually had happened at the Bali bombings?
Well, Joe, as a matter of fact, Joe is an expert in aircraft identification. So before I talked to Joe, I had no idea that the plane that flew these bodies out was in fact a Conair -7. Joe Viles got the identification on the aircraft for us, and Joe's dead. I still don't know what happened to Joe. I have no idea what happened to him. But he died suddenly.
That's right. I believe in July of 2005, he died of a sudden massive heart attack, according to sources.
No. They told me that Joe died from a kidney adrenal problem.
Right.
That's what they told me. Not a heart attack.
Okay.